welcome to Bad Ideas, the show where we look at misfires, mistakes, and miscalculations from all throughout history.
I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Albert Berg, and today's episode is brought to you by our featured patron, Alor20A6. Thank you for being a patron.
Thank you.
Today's episode starts in Ireland, Tony. The Green Isle. And there's a man named Pat McDonough. Now, Pat McDonough got the nickname Super Mac while he was playing football as a teenager. Now, again, this is Ireland, so translate to soccer in America, Tony, but this is an Irish story, so we'll call it football. And when he started a restaurant several years later in Galway, it made sense to call it Super Mac's. And over the years, Super Mac's grew to be the largest Irish-owned fast food chain in the country, with over 100 stores in operation as of 2013. Now, these guys sell basic fast food stuff, Tony. They have French fries, which I think they call chips over there. They have burgers. They have chicken tenders. They have basically everything you would expect to find at a regular fast food restaurant.
You are making me really need some fast food right now. Like, it's getting close to lunchtime here, and man, I need it bad.
Well, Super Mac's is hoping that lots of people think that. They've got a lot of people thinking that in Ireland. And so, with this winning formula established in their home country, Super Mac's thinks we're going to expand our borders. Literally. They're going to go beyond the borders of Ireland and expand into the rest of the European Union. Now, there's a lot of paperwork in this process. You can't just go build your store and start selling hamburgers without getting a lot of things in order before you do. And so Super Mac's starts filing for things like trademarks in the EU, both for the name of the store and for the products they intend to sell, including their signature sandwich, which is a hamburger called the Mighty Mac. And you don't have to have gone to like 8 years of law school to predict what's going to happen next, Tony, because there's another restaurant that you may have heard of that has a Mac hamburger who doesn't like for their trademark to be encroached upon. That's McDonald's. For those of you who are waiting in suspense to hear the name of the restaurant, McDonald's finds out that Super Mac's is filing for trademarks for their products in the EU, and they file an opposition. Now, some people at this point in the story are probably thinking, why won't McDonald's let Super Mac's into the EU? Why are they being so mean? This is actually not that bad, all right? Most corporations, if they want to hold on to their trademark, the way it works is if you don't defend it, you lose it.
Yeah, even against small people, you have to defend it. It's a weird precedence you have to set, but even in video games and all these other things, whenever there's small people trying to do like little emulations and stuff, you have to fight it.
Right. So, for instance, if you've heard the stories of Walt Disney World suing a daycare because they had Mickey painted on their wall, but they didn't have it licensed, it's because there is the possibility that later on somebody else wants to use Mickey in a painting on a daycare wall, and they can then go to court and say, well, listen, they let these guys do it. They obviously don't care that much about their trademark, so they can't now come and slap me with some kind of a lawsuit because they're just letting it lapse. You have to actually be on top of this stuff legally if you want to keep it. McDonald's says, essentially, listen, they kind of sound similar. Sometimes their restaurants have yellow, scripty looking titles. It's a little bit similar to McDonald's. We don't like that. We don't want them coming into the EU with this trademark. But here's where it gets interesting. Super Mac's filed their claim on March 11th, 2014. And McDonald's, they defend against the claim, right? They send their lawyers up and they say, no, we want to keep everything for McDonald's. This is going to be confusing to customers. Don't do this. They don't stop there, though. They don't stop with just playing defense. Because 1 week later, McDonald's files a trademark on the term snack box. Now, as Americans, you might be thinking, well, we don't have a snack box at McDonald's here in America. Maybe McDonald's in Europe has a snack box that they're putting out. But no, McDonald's does not have a snack box product in Europe. But you know who does have a product called the snack box in Europe, Tony? It's Supermax.
Supermax?
Supermax has a snack box. Now, I will point out, this is actually a relatively common thing for fast food restaurants in Ireland to have, is a product called the snack box. It's kind of generic. I don't know if I would support Supermax having a solid hold on the copyright to the word snack box, but it is part of their restaurant's identity. It is one of the items that they sell that's pretty popular on their menu, and it's an obvious slap in the face from McDonald's, this counterfiling. And Supermax founder Pat McDonough was not happy. He argued McDonald's, quote, engaged in trademark bullying by registering brand names which are nothing to do with them, they do not use, and which are simply stored away in order to pulverize some future competitor, just as this corporate giant has already tried to do with Supermax. And he makes a really interesting point here. He says not only are they bullying us with this specific product that we sell and are pretty well known for, but also they just try to trademark everything with the Mc in the front. They have McFamily, McInternet, McMeal, which I guess McMeal is pretty obvious, but they just essentially went through the dictionary, added Mc in front of all of the words, and then filed trademark for them. And McDonough says, listen, McDonald's is not the only name that starts with Mc, and lots of other people might want to start restaurants and have, you know, the McHot Dog or it could be anything, right? And you would essentially freeze those people out simply because there's a big restaurant with Mc at the beginning.
Yeah, it was really controversial whenever they started the mixed cigarette.
I would bet 50-50 money on the fact that actually was a thing at some point. Like, that's a coin flip for me. I don't know, but I would not bet against it very hard. Let's say that. He went on to say, quote, why would McDonald's trademark it unless it wants to come knocking on our door again to tell us that we have to stop selling a product that we so obviously own?
I'm looking at pictures, and I gotta say, this snack box looks great. It's like, you go to a lot of those places, and you end up ordering, like, too much if you get a value meal. This is like 2 pieces of chicken and a bed of fries. It looks great.
Yeah, it does. Now, McDonald's wins a partial victory in this battle. Supermax gets the right to operate as a restaurant in the EU, but they were not allowed to retain the trademarks on the names of their dishes. So they're not allowed to sell anything called the Mighty Mac in the bigger part of the EU, which is what McDonald's... I can see where McDonald's coming from. The Big Mac, the Mighty Mac, they sound a lot similar, right? It sounds like the Asylum version of the Big Mac. For those of you who may not know, the Asylum is a company in America that makes similarly titled films that for very, very little money to large budget Hollywood blockbusters that are coming out. So
yeah, like Atlantic Rim for Pacific Rim and lots of other things in that. What is it? Warship versus Battleship?
American Warships versus Battleship. Yes. Yeah. Now, McDonald's has won this part of the battle, but Supermax decides they're not going to accept defeat. They hit back at McDonald's with one of the most bizarre, crazy, 1 in a million chance lawsuits that I could ever imagine. To this day, Tony, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know why they even considered that this might work, other than maybe they just thought, we'll just hassle McDonald's lawyers. But they go back to the EU Trademark Court, and they file a motion protesting McDonald's use of the trademark Big Mac. And here's the legal filing. I'm going to read from the original paperwork. Quote, the applicant argues that the EU TM, that's European Union trademark, was not put to genuine use during a continuous period of 5 years following the date of registration in relation to any of the registered goods and services. So Supermax files a lawsuit saying McDonald's hadn't sold no Big Macs in the last 5 years. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Not a single solitary Big Mac.
This is what they refer to in legal circles as a ballsy move. Because obviously, McDonald's does sell hamburgers called Big Mac. All over the EU, all over the world. Everybody knows what a Big Mac is.
Unless you're in France and it's a Royale with cheese.
They've been genuine using the heck out of their trademark, is what we're saying, in the EU. But because Supermax filed this injunction against them, they actually have to show up in court and prove that they've been making genuine use of the term Big Mac to sell hamburgers. It should have been a cakewalk. But somehow, incredibly, McDonald's shows up in court and fails to prove that they have been using the trademark Big Mac to sell hamburgers.
How?
Well,
Like, this sounds like those patent courts out of Texas where, like, the judges are just extremely biased.
okay, so there's maybe some element of that, right? It's the EU, McDonald's, big American company. There could be some of that going on. But there's also some shoddy legal work happening on the part of McDonald's. Because the evidence they provide is just, it's not good. So the first form of evidence they provide to the court was 3 affidavits from, like, that's like sworn testimony, essentially written down. Somebody says, yes, this is happening. Those affidavits were from McDonald's executives. So McDonald's went to its own managers in some of the countries in Europe and got them to write out, hey, we sell hamburgers.
That's some high effort right there.
Well, and the court says to them, yeah, like, you're trying to prove to us that you sell hamburgers so you can keep your trademark. You just went to a bunch of people in your company and got them to say that you sell hamburgers. This is not good proof. Like, and so imagine this not as McDonald's, right? Because, again, we all have sort of the knee-jerk, like, well, obviously McDonald's sells hamburgers. But let's say it's Joe's Awesome House of Electronics, right? And so you're Joe's Awesome House of Electronics trying to prove that you own the term Joe's Awesome House of Electronics and you're selling products under that name. And then you just, to prove it, you go get a bunch of the people who work at Joe's Awesome House of Electronics to say, yeah, we do. And the court's like, well, that's not enough. Like, that's not... Obviously, yes, they would say that. They're being paid by you. They have a vested interest in how this is going to come out. Next, McDonald's supplied printouts of their own websites featuring the Big Mac. And here I'm going to read from what the court's response was. Quote, although some of the printouts of the proprietor's web pages exhibit sandwiches, the prices are not provided, in parenthesis, some of which are marked with the EU trademark, it could not be concluded whether or how a purchase could be made or an order could be placed. Even if the websites provided such an option, there is no information of a single order being placed. Although the submitted packaging materials and brochures depict the EU trademark, there is no information provided about how these brochures were circulated, who they were offered to, and whether they have led to any potential or actual purchases. Moreover, there is no independent evidence submitted that could show how many of the products for which the packaging was used, if that was the case, were actually offered for sale or sold. So essentially, McDonald's printed out their website that had a picture of the Big Mac on it. Again, let's pretend this isn't McDonald's. This is just Joe's Giant House of Electronics. Joe's Giant House of Electronics prints out the website that they publish and says, yeah, see here, we have all these products listed. And the court again says, yeah, great, you have a picture of a thing on a website, but we're looking for proof that you're selling them. like you can't click through this website to buy the Big Mac. You haven't provided back-end information on how many people responded to this ad. So all I have is just a picture of a website with the thing that you want to keep on it, no dice.
I feel like this could have been fixed with a cell phone video of like paying a homeless person to go buy a cheeseburger.
You think? Yeah? Or just
It's
like
like just
a cell
something
phone
so
video
easy.
of people in McDonald's already. You don't have to pay people to go to McDonald's. People like to go to McDonald's.
Yeah, it's like, how long would it take for you to literally leave a camera running for somebody to walk in and buy a Big Mac?
You pan from Big Mac on the sign down to a guy handing money to the cashier, and then, like, selfie mode, like, boom, we sell them Big Macs.
It's not like you need a Michael Bay production here.
But no, Tony. They did have one more piece of evidence, though. Are you ready for the final piece of evidence?
I'm ready.
This is the icing on the delicious, delicious cake of this story. McDonald's final piece of evidence to prove that they are in fact selling Big Macs was a printout from Wikipedia. They just went on the Big Mac page for Wikipedia and printed out the page that said however many million Big Macs sold. And you don't have to be a genius. Again, no legal genius is required to guess what the court said to that. All you have to have done is graduate from one of those high schools where every single teacher tells you Wikipedia is not a good source because anybody can edit it.
Yeah, and you also wouldn't even have to finish high school. They tell you that in junior high.
Literally, everybody knows this. And Wikipedia does sometimes get it wrong. I love Wikipedia, okay? I do a lot of initial research for this show starting from Wikipedia. But
yeah, you need that summary sometimes.
And there's no guarantee that any source is 100% accurate, right? I don't want to get into the minutia here, but you're in a court of law and you are providing information to bolster your case from a website that the feature of it is that anyone can edit it. Again, let's go to Joe's Giant House of Electronics. All they have to do is make a page, keep it up on Wikipedia long enough to click print, and then they've got their quote-unquote evidence. The court was not having it. They said, you guys have not proved that you've been selling Big Macs this whole time.
And if you went into the financial area, the accountants, they probably had an entire list of exactly how many Big Macs were sold across the planet, or an approximate list.
That is a great point, Tony. Here is something that I think about this case. I have not been able to confirm this, okay? This is just Albert's opinion now. I think McDonald's was actually trying to avoid that kind of evidence because they don't want to have all of that sort of internal information out in the public domain. Now, I could be wrong.
That kind of makes sense.
Like, maybe it already is out there, but it seems like maybe they actually would not for everybody to know exactly how closely people associate Big Mac with sales and where all that sort of psychological tenuous link that people make. And, you know, there's this whole weird voodoo of sales and psychology, and McDonald's probably has a lot of stuff that they want to keep proprietary. So that is my guess on why they didn't let more info about that out. They were trying to keep it under the lid, but they went way too far in the other direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just absurd. Like, and it wouldn't really be that damaging to like just find a real source. Like, I feel like these lawyers were just drinking the night before, thinking they had they had the case won. It was going to be easy, and they just had to slap a few things on there, and it would be like, well, it's just common sense. We sell Big Macs.
Common sense is not what the law is about, Tony.
Yeah, it's about provable fact, and even if everybody knows it, like, you didn't bring the right evidence. Maybe the judge was just surly because they didn't bring anything real.
I wanted to find more. This is the one thing that I didn't get in my research. I could not find like eyewitness accounts of what was going on actually in the courtroom. Like, I have all the documents more or less, and I have all the stories that came after that. I don't know what these guys were doing or how they were acting. I can only extrapolate from the fact, again, that they sort of hit back with their snack box filing at Supermax that maybe these guys were just sort of strutting around like they own the world. It didn't work for them this time. Now, a couple of caveats on this story. The specific trademark that McDonald's lost was on all caps Big Mac. McDonald's still owns the trademark. McDonald's still has the trademark to capital B, lowercase I, lowercase g, capital M, lowercase a, lowercase c. That's not as sexy for the story, but it is the fact. So they're still able to do that in the EU, and they are also able to appeal this. So this is not the end of the story, and one certainly hopes that round 2 will involve McDonald's getting their act together and actually treating this like a real case. But
I mean, do we really hope that? Like,
just for the sake of, like, people with millions of dollars at stake should probably take things seriously. Which is, I think, the real point of this episode. It's not so much that McDonald's lost in the long term, but I think we all do ourselves a disservice when we don't prepare for things that we assume are going to be easy. McDonald's came at this not taking the threat seriously. They thought, we can just show up because we're going to win because we're McDonald's. Of course we sell Big Macs, and they did not do their work. And you have to do the work. Even if you're absolutely dominant, even if you know you're going to win, you still have to show up and play the game.
Yep. You see that in fighting all the time. Guys who underprepare because they think it's going to be a wash, and then they take one right on the chin.
So that's it. That's our Bad Ideas episode for this week. It was really fun, despite the fact that I really enjoy McDonald's stuff. It's fun to see David beat Goliath. I hope Supermax does well.
You always want to see a bully put in his place occasionally.
Yeah. Like, I like their sandwiches. I hope they keep making sandwiches, but don't be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
So, maybe Supermax will eventually make it here, Tony. Maybe
I was reading an article saying that they are
king.
going international. So maybe someday.
One day. They actually do own some weird Irish-themed restaurants in, like, Wisconsin. Interesting sidebar that has nothing to do with this, but I did find that fact while I was researching. But that is it. That is all we have for this week. Thank you guys so much. If you have bad ideas that you would like us to talk about, you can suggest them at badideasshow@gmail.com, or if you're on YouTube watching this, you can leave them in the comments, and we will put them on our list for consideration. Also, if you really enjoy this and you want to help us make more of them, you can go over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanechoes and become a member over there, and you can get our extra podcasts that we make every couple of weeks where it's me and Tony and some other people we work with just sort of shooting the breeze and having a good time.
Yep, less structured, lots of fun. We will talk to you guys next week with more bad ideas.
Bye, guys!